is about how the optics of last night. Everybody in the room except Joe Biden was wearing a mask. And I get it that we want to encourage people to wear masks, but the CDC a couple of days ago said, you know, if everybody's vaccinated, you don't need a mask. And everybody in that room had to prove to get into that room that they had either been vaccinated or they had tested negative. Now, that wouldn't be quite enough for me, because testing negative doesn't mean that you don't have a disease and you aren't contagious. The first couple of days you can be contagious and still test negative, if my recollection of the science is correct, or at least for a day in there. But remember my whole vaccine passport thing of a couple of days ago well, here in Oregon, for example, yesterday I got an email from the state of Oregon. And it was, you know, it was part of their whole COVID. Every day I get a COVID email from the state of Oregon, which tells me, you know, how many people were infected and what counties and how many people died and all this kind of thing. And in this email, they pointed out that Real ID, which is where your driver's license has a little star in the corner that's kind of holographic and hard to fake. What that star means is that when your driver's license was issued, the DMV also verified your citizenship. And Congress years ago, in fact, it might have been part of the Patriot Act, it was one, you know, right during that time, toward the end of the Bush administration, passed a law saying that you can't get on an airplane unless, you know, with a driver's license, unless that driver's license has, quote, Real ID. In other words, it has that star on it to prove that you're a citizen. And if you're not a citizen, then you're going to have to bring your passport from the country that you're a citizen of. And Oregon, being Oregon, you know, having a bunch of crazed right-wingers and a few left-wingers who are kind of not all that happy with the establishment, said, screw it. You know, we're not going to do Real ID here in Oregon. And we haven't. They literally just started it this week. And it was supposed to be last October. You couldn't get on an airplane without a driver's license with that little star on it. And you can't get them from the state of Oregon. Well, you can now, starting this week, but you've got to go in person. So the state of Oregon has moved the Real ID back to this week. Now they're issuing them, but you've got to go in person and get them. And as a consequence of that, the federal government has said, okay, we'll wait until 2023. So we'll give you another year and a half to get your Real ID. So my point with this story is that simply by saying you have to have a star on your driver's license in order to get on a damn airplane, the federal government has basically forced is probably the wrong word, encouraged, well, forced, whatever word you want, has created a situation where virtually every American with a driver's license now also has proof of citizenship. So why can't we do that with vaccine passports? What if last night, instead of saying to the many Republicans who refuse to get vaccinated but are willing to be tested, in order to get into this chamber, you have to be vaccinated or tested, which was the rule last night. What if instead they had said, screw that, in order to get in this chamber, you have to prove that you have been vaccinated at least 2 weeks from today. Your second vaccine was more than 2 weeks ago, that you're fully vaccinated. And nobody's going to wear masks because we are all fully vaccinated. And then when the cameras panned around the room, it would look like a normal room. And it would convey the message to Americans all across the country that, occasionally it'll bleed through our media, some little picture from New Zealand or Australia or Taiwan where people aren't wearing masks and they're like at a stadium or a sporting event or whatever. And they don't have to wear masks because they've got the virus under control and everybody's vaccinated. Or at Israel, where everybody's vaccinated, or at least the Israel being an apartheid state, the non-Muslim part of Israel, the Jewish part of Israel. No masks, right? Things are back to normal. And if they could have done that, in my opinion, last night, and said, okay, and Lauren Boebert, who brought how they put tinfoil hats on their heads, she brought a tinfoil bodysuit for her entire body, a space blanket. Honest to God, this is the kind of people that Colorado is sending to the U.S. House of Representatives. But if she refuses to get vaccinated, just say, sorry, you're not going to go in there.